call to order the meeting for the City of Columbiana City Council for February 5th, 2019. Could we all stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance?
Lord, bless those who hold office in our government, help them to do their work in a spirit of wisdom, kindness, and justice, and to use their authority to serve our citizens faithfully. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Here.
McMahon?
Here.
Liston?
Here.
Bob? Noel?
Here.
Lakeman? Lewis?
Here.
Hudson?
Here. Everyone should have received the minutes for the meeting of January 15, 2019, and the minutes for the special meeting of January 29, 2019. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they'll stand as presented. Reading the communications, we have a letter from the Fairfield Ruralton Club addressed to Dr. Green at City Hall. Greetings, Fairfield Ruralton Club is requesting permission to have our annual classic custom and antique car show on Sunday, July 14, 2019. This event is one of our best promotions to help support the Fairfield Ruralton Scholarship Fund, which is provided to students in Columbiana High School and Crestview High School each year. As in the past, we will utilize South Main Street all day for the show, with the understanding the show does not actually begin till noon and ends at 4 p.m. We do not play any music or utilize any sound system until church is dismissed at noon. The street department normally places barricades in the alleys, which we use to control traffic the day of the show, and will those be provided this year? Fairfield Ruralton Club will provide temporary restrooms, porta-johns located next to AAA for the day of the event. We will have a DJ playing music and making announcements all afternoon. We provide a contact with the city that can assist in hooking up the system for our DJ. Thanks for your assistance. Signed, Rick Erbson, Fairfield Ruralton Club. I believe that's on the agenda later on for approval. You should have received a report from the Columbiana Parks and Recreation Cemetery Board meeting for December 17th, 2009. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? Moving on to persons desiring to appear. Braden Tucker, Dying Green Diesel Truck, requesting permission to hold his annual truck show on Main Street on a September or October date to be determined upon approval. Braden, would you like to come forward and state your name and address and so on, just for the record?
Yeah, Braden Tucker with Dying Green Diesels. Got a little cheat sheet here. If you don't mind, I'd like to go over the show that we had here this past October. Just give you some statistics. We held it on October 20th from 3 to 7 p.m. We had 57 registered trucks. Furthest destination, we had a truck from Mesquite, Texas here. At the end of the day, we were able to contribute $200 to Columbiana City Police, $200 to Columbiana PAC 16, and $600 to Columbiana Nazarene Church food relief called Bended Knee. Weather was horrible. It's a nightmare of anybody. But honestly, God really blessed us because it kind of went all around anywhere but Columbiana. We did have clouds, a little sprinkle, but we didn't have the downpour everybody else had. I'd like to give special thanks to some folks, no particular order. I'd like to thank Chief Gladys and the police department. They worked with us very well. Really appreciated the help. I'd like to thank Generations Cafe. They stayed open 2 hours late for us, and a lot of guys liked the coffee. It was pretty good. I'd like to thank Pac 16. They held a Pledge of Allegiance ceremony and sang the national anthem before us on the flagpole at the bank. I'd like to thank the bank, PNC Bank, and Steve Bobali, the Vice President of the bank, for the use of the flagpole. So we have ceremonial flag raising. I'd like to thank Brian McLaughlin, Director of the Drug Task Force, for bringing the MRAP from the Columbiana County Sheriff's Department here. I'd like to thank Superintendent Don Wood from Columbiana Schools for providing a bus to put on display here. And don't miss anybody or I'll be in trouble. Oh, most important sort of is I'd like to thank Pastor Wendell from Hazard Church for opening up a prayer for us for the ceremony. Very proud of what our end is, but it's very rewarding and makes me very proud when I heard the comments from our guys about the city. It is a beautiful city, and they appreciated the hospitality. Very impressed with Main Street, very impressed with the mural that's painted on the wall in the garden. They'd love to come back, and there's even more interest of other people who'd like to come. So that's why I'm here tonight. If possible, I'd like to propose a couple of dates. I don't know if they fit or not, but either Saturday, September 28th or October 5th. The reason I like to bump it a little earlier, maybe have a little warmer weather, but I understand with daylight and everything, if we could make it 4 to 8, I think that would be a little bit easier on the businesses in town with their normal business hours. And at 8 o'clock, if I bump it up a few weeks, it's probably not going to get dark till 8 o'clock. If permitted, we'd like to do the light show again and take the trucks through town. That's all I have.
Well, we're glad you came back.
Thank you.
I, for one, thought it was very well done.
Thank you.
It's really appreciated.
I don't want to put her on the spot, but we are going to be working with April if we can do it again, of the Chamber of Commerce, and really try to help ourselves. I think we either try to do something better, you're either going forward or you're going backwards, and we should go forward.
You have established a specific date. I don't think that's a major problem, except that I think we would recommend that you work with the chief to make sure there aren't any conflicts and that everything is working out okay. And the council be advised when you actually come up with a date.
Sure. Would you like me to return on that date?
I'd
like to make a motion to do it, and just when they get the date, we get in.
send us a letter or something, notify us.
Sure. Okay, great.
I'll make the
Is that what your
motion.
motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that,
You did.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Seconded. Sorry about that. I can't hear worth a darn tonight.
Sorry.
You can second. You did.
Now, see, I can't.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, thank you for the effort that you put into the event. Thank you.
I thought it was awesome. I really did. I thought it was awesome. We sat in the car and watched you guys drive out of town because of the weather.
I stayed at the theater. I wasn't in there.
Oh, you weren't in
I
there?
didn't see it. But I watch things pretty close. I walk around, I hear, I don't like people, truck drivers have a reputation.
I thought it was awesome,
Any other questions or comments? We have roll call on the motion, please.
Becker?
Yes.
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Milano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We are looking forward to the show again this fall.
We are as well, I won't let you down.
Very good.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is, Ron Detweiler, Park Recreation Cemetery Board President. He gives an update on Firestone Park.
Pat's with us again tonight, and she's going to also be part of this update, but I'm going to go ahead and get started and talk about dirt and rocks and those kind of things first. Two things tonight I want to give you, mainly are updates. As we start to finish up this Mirror Lake project, you're going to have questions coming up, and it's my purpose tonight to try to give you some information, some answers for that. Had the opportunity to talk to Hipley Construction last week, also new responders, and we had a construction meeting Friday. So pretty much the information's up to date. The landscaping is 80% done on the Mirror Lake project. All of the boulders and stones and the retaining walls are in place. Now there'll be some that will need to be rearranged as the final waterfalls and those kind of things are put in. But for most of it, the stonework is done. There's 2 waterfalls yet that need to be put in. I think they're waiting a little bit for weather on that one. And the cement sidewalks are all the way around the lake. If you've been in there, you'll notice that the pathway for the sidewalks are there, and also the cement portions are there. The blacktop that goes on that pathway, it has to be 50 degrees before the blacktop's put down. So again, we're weather is determining what we do. And the weather's been very uncooperative, as you can imagine. Currently, they're working on the excavating. It was our goal when we started this project to deepen the lake and get rid of the sediment that's in there. The sediment, silt, and that type of material is completely been eliminated or removed. And we got very fortunate on that one because we came in way under budget, which segued into our next part of the project. It was our goal to try to deepen that lake, to try to help with fish and also eliminating algae and things like that. And with the way that they worked it around the architects, we're going to be able to do exactly that and still come in within budget. The goal is, if you look at the pavilion, if you're looking at the pavilion, there's that rectangle area in front of the pavilion. That area has only been 1 to 2 feet deep forever. They plan on taking that down to about a 3-foot level all across that area. And then the peanut shape that comes down towards the outflow, that area, there's going to be a trench in there, but they're deepening it down to an 8-foot level, which currently it's only 3 to 4. I didn't know, what do you know about lakes, but there has to be a certain slope, and if you go down so far, you have to go out so far to get the proper slope to have proper lake, and they were able to do that. Also, the area that's, if you come down Herbster, and that grassy area in front seems to be where all the fishing takes place, so they are putting a different slope on that area in order to make it more advantageous for kids and fishing. The island that's in there is going to be removed, and those stones are going to be saved and utilized. As you know, we in the fall, thank you to the city and the park board, because we captured every fish that was in that lake and moved them to the 2 back lakes. Frank and Lance have been working with the Ohio in the Columbiana Soil and Water Conservation District, and we have plans to restock that lake in around April. I hope the fish grow fast, because at the park board meeting last week, we approved the fishing derby for the 4th of July celebration. So they need to grow.
Are you going to attempt to move some of the fish back, or?
We haven't gotten that far yet. We're working on it. I don't know, I can't answer that. Yeah, I mean, we took a lot of fish out of there. I was flabbergasted. I didn't think there was fish in there. I mean, we took some big fish out of there too. And where we put them in the back lakes, to my knowledge, I bet we didn't lose half a dozen. I mean, it was a smooth transition, but, you know, I'll get back to you on that kind of thing. And John Hipley plans on spending the next couple weeks on working on the monument, and he wants to finish that up, and then he's gonna take a break, until weather permitting. Pat's gonna talk a little bit about trees and bushes and flowers and shrubs, but I want it to be known that, after talking to, Mr. Hipley, the larger trees, the oaks, the maples, and the pines, there's about 13 to 17 of them that are gonna be replaced, to make up for the trees that we have to remove. And then, of course, the shrubs and all of that. Projected completion date's gonna be Memorial Day, although they think it's going to be sooner than that. There will be a dedication, June 22nd? June 22nd, the Firestones are going to be invited back to Columbiana. We're extremely happy the way the project's moved along. I mean, I'm telling you, we're gonna have a gem when we're done. And one other note I'd like to make, we're working on our budget too. And as you look through that, you're gonna notice that we'd like to add a few things to the project. We appreciate what Pat's doing, but we're putting in our budget for this year to also do all of the cement sidewalks around the pavilion. And also have the old fountain, which we ask that they keep and not tear out. So the stone fountain and steps, to have them sandblasted. We have a new sidewalk coming in from the parking lot. We have a new sidewalk going down the road. So we'd like to, in the city of the park, go ahead and do that project to help out their project also. We couldn't do this without Pat, so I use that as an introduction, and I think thank you for her for everything she's done, and again, say what a wonderful project we're going to have when we're done.
Are you gonna be able to sell those tires?
Don't even go there. Didn't bring that up for a specific reason.
That was the most interesting part of the meeting. I was there talking about those tires. What are you gonna do with them? How much can you get with them? I thought that was fascinating. Well, in typical male-female fashion, he took care of the dirt and the water and the rocks, and I'm gonna take care of the pretty stuff, okay? The pillars are just about done. Those 3 pillars down at the end there, and remember that's for Edison, Ford, and Firestone. And we've ordered the placard that goes on, which will say pioneers, inventors, entrepreneurs, great friends all, because they were great friends, and we want to continue emphasizing the importance of the Firestones to the park. As we go into our next project, that's one of our goals. So the pillars are just about finished. They're putting a stone facing on them. And it was between limestone and, what was the other, sandstone. I think they look more like sandstone, but they're really quite nice. They're very, very attractive. And they're tall enough and big enough that the kids can't knock them over. So, okay, that was important. The 2 large waterfalls at the end in front of Pavilion 4, that was an addition, and that was something that I came up with because I know John Hipley does such a super job on that. There will be 5 pumps in each side, so you're going to have 10 pumps pumping water on both sides. And there's a big box if you drive out there called the vault, where all that apparatus is. John and I talked a little bit about that. The 2 terraces in front of the pavilion, the benches have been ordered, and a circular bench that will go in the memorial garden has also been ordered. Keith Kaiser presented me with the plan for my son's memorial garden. It's not a very large garden. It sits behind those 3 pillars,
in kind of an arc and goes out to the water. But it is, in case, if you've seen his work during the summer with flowers, you know what we're gonna get. It's something very special, which is the reason I wanted him to do it. He gave me the plan and I went over it, and I honestly did not know a lot of the trees and the bushes. I wanted an oriental feel to it, and he found it, so it's gonna be beautiful. I counted 6 different kinds of bushes and trees, 12 different kinds of flowers, spring, summer, and fall, and some of them you would know, some of them you don't know. The good news about that project is he's going to maintain it through the first year, so it's not an additional burden on the maintenance people of the park. That's part of his fee and being paid to do it. Besides, he owns it, you know, he wants to make sure he makes it through the first year, so. What else? And you saw in the paper, Katie had a nice article in about the, trees, bushes, grasses, and flowers around the Mirror Lake itself. We have a nice variety there. I think that's gonna be very nice. And as Ron mentioned, we set aside June 22nd for the dedication at 2 o'clock at Pavilion 4. And as we get closer to that, we'll give you more information on that. But, as Ron said, the Firestones asked to be invited back. Well, we're doing something for them too. We're doing the 3 pillars. And then, the other part of the ceremony will be for my son. So it has been a pleasure to work with the city. I have to say that. Just a pleasure. I mean, not all parts of our project have gone well, you understand. Vaughn and I have learned an awful lot that was not in our background because we're educators. But one thing we knew that we could count on was the city, and I want to thank Lance for that. And also, we've worked very well with the park board. I think we've gotten so we communicate quite well. We're both in this for the same goal, to make that place beautiful again, and so I wanted to extend my thanks. The park staff has been wonderful to work with, so, and that's it. Look forward to the spring in a beautiful lake. Thank you.
You said June 22nd, what time?
2 o'clock. And it will be a ceremony. This is mine, so I have a musical group coming and a minister and my family, and the council will be invited, park board will be invited, the R&D will be invited. I've chosen not to make it a open ceremony because it is for my son, and I hope everybody understands that. So, look forward to seeing you there. Any questions?
Fantastic.
I'm back. I have one other item I wanted to make a few comments on and let you know where we stand. At December's council meeting, there was some discussion at the end of the meeting concerning the stadium issue in the park and also a possible levy. This started as a presentation to Park Board. Where a group came to us of concerned citizens that the stadium was in horrible shape and needed to be replaced, refinished, or whatever. It sort of took on a life of its own, and as usual, it's impossible sometimes to get things done yesterday. And even the discussions that we had, there was the thoughts of putting a levy on as quickly as this spring. We formed a committee that's made up of city, school, and park. And we're discussing the issue. But where I've had the opportunity to talk to the superintendent of schools, a couple of lengthy conversations, and we agree that it's impossible to do a levy like this as quickly as some people want it to be done. The committee's intact. We're going to spend the year discussing the item, but understand with Park Board too, not only are we finishing up with the lake project, but June 1st, the money comes in from ODOT for us to start the building of the walkway around the park area, from the bathhouse to Springfield Road, which means new sidewalks, drainage, things, the brick gutters, everything. Also in the park, Pat and her group's moving ahead with the playground equipment and the sports courts. So we found from park board standpoint that it would be impossible for us to try to go on a fast track of a levy this soon. And that's just what it is. We've talked about it, but what I want the council to know is we're not scrapping the idea just because we didn't follow up at the beginning. It doesn't mean that we're not going to go forward. But it's complicated, and you've heard me say this before. Columbiana is unique because we're one of only 2 school systems in the state of Ohio that have a public football stadium, school football stadium, or baseball stadium in a public park. And so not only are we working with the levy, what kind of levy did we put on? School levy, park levy, community levy, council? I mean, it's complicated. We all agree that there's a need, and we are going to move forward with it, but there's going to be a lot of discussion that's going to have to take place over this year. We're actually looking at maybe a year out that might fit into the plans there. Part of that discussion is going to be, understand that stadium was the second structure built in Firestone Park. The bathhouse being the first. So there's talk out there of just tearing the stadium down and putting a new one up, the aluminum stand. I've got to think, living in this town as long as I have, there might be some opposition to that. So those are the discussions that have to take place over the next year. But what I really wanted council to know is we haven't just walked away and forgotten about it. It's complicated with everything else we have on our plate. We're going to take time to study it. Levies, we're fortunate on the park board because we have 2 ex-school board members that have been through levies for the school, and also several park board members that have gone through park board levies. And timing's everything. I mean, with the levy, timing's everything. If we would want to go head to head with the fire levy that you guys have coming up, it wouldn't work. So those are the things we're discussing. But my main point is, no, we haven't dropped it. We're studying it, but it's not going to be a quick fix here. Okay?
Yeah, I think that's important. Just from my personal opinion, it makes more sense to plan and figure out what needs to be done rather than rushing into it and just doing something to do something. So I praise you for taking the time and effort to make sure it's done right.
And we've been through this, and we know we have to come back to council. I will keep you posted of what we're doing. We're going to do the studying and the work, and so you'll be apprised along the way. You'll know what we're doing. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is April Brinker, Chamber of Commerce, to discuss the 2019 July 4th festivities. Thank you.
April Brinker, Columbiana Chamber of Commerce. As Ron said, we were at Park Board just a week or so ago, requesting permission there. One of our big areas of concern, obviously, is Mirror Lake. We did away with the fishing derby and canoe race last year, and we are really hoping that we can bring that back this year and really show off and showcase the new Mirror Lake. So I'm just here tonight to ask permission to move forward with our plans and to see if anyone has any questions for us. It is obviously July 4th. This is a Thursday. We do have our rain date scheduled for Saturday, July 6th. Should we need that date, we do try to make every attempt to have all of the activities also take place on that Saturday.
So this is going to be essentially the same event that we've had in the past, however many years it's been.
There's one addition that's a little bit different for us. We're actually excited about it. We have struggled in the past few years to find organizations to put together our family games, our free family games. So one of our committee members came up with an idea. There's a local man who actually has a business with the bounce houses. Tim Bortner, I believe is his name. So we are looking at working with Tim, finding a sponsor, and bringing those bounce houses and some of those old carnival games into the day, and that will fill up that family game time that we have struggled with to find.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have a roll call, please?
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes. Yes.
Vote twice.
I got it back.
Manager's report?
Okay, so since last meeting, we were contacted by ODOT, following up with the legislation that we passed in the fall about the paving of the state route within Columbiana, and we needed to get that passed. What it is it's a follow-up legislation that would have a better estimate on that cost, and we're going to need to pass emergency legislation in order to get that project off the ground, because they need everything to them by February 22nd, which would make it almost impossible to do that if we don't do an emergency. Just give you an update on the United Healthcare for the employees. We did the conversion is complete now. ID cards and debit cards are all ready. It's up and going. CRA, we held a negotiating committee meeting today, and will be another one here pretty soon. And the Housing Council will be meeting tomorrow. Just want to let you know that we did get a couple applications in for the negotiating committee to consider, and they'll be doing that over the next week. Then, once we do process those, we'll definitely give you an update. And there's some Ohio Revised Codes makes us inform the school board in certain situations, and we'll follow that to a T. Civil service test for the dispatcher position was January 19th, and I believe we got at least 10 candidates that took that test. All of the departments have been working on their budgets for 2019, and then at the next meeting, February 19th, I plan to have a PowerPoint like we do every year, and give a 2018 presentation, a summary of what we've gotten done. At the last meeting, we mentioned that Rick Bardo resigned. We're going to accept those letters of interest until February 14th. That'll give us time to get those names in the packets for the February 19th meeting. The vehicle policy that we've been talking about for like 6 months is on the agenda today. Street department, we've definitely plowed snow, plowed and salted a lot. Kudos to our staff and all the departments that have helped out on it. They've done a great job. We're fixing repairing trucks as needed. If you use them, you're going to have to fix them. Potholes, we started a huge pothole campaign yesterday, and we're going to continue that till we're done. So we probably have to start over. Salt, we're in really good shape for the year. We don't see any shortages or anything or any concern. We should be set. So. Water department, they're still working on an asset management program. They did complete, as required by the EPA and the USDA, we did complete a water distribution contingency plan, much like our other contingency plans we have for the city. We did repair a large water main in our distribution system, but we were able to do that, without a boil alert. It was, a positive flow, was coming out, and it was really cold, so hats off to able to get that done. Ordered a new influent and effluent sampler for the wastewater. Park and Cemetery worked on budget items, as Ron said, they talked about it at the park, and we're gonna continue to do that. We did start on the process of hiring park and pool help, and, Ron just gave you a great, update on the pond dredging. Electric department, I can't remember if I mentioned it last, we had an outage at the south end of town last week, and somebody was either cutting a tree down or trimming, I'm not sure which, and it just took our lines out, and our staff was, able to get out there pretty quick. I think it was like between 45 minutes and an hour, but, it was cold, so appreciate them getting on that. And then, we dielectric testing of our, rubber goods at the electric department. At that special meeting we had, held last week, the DORA application, was passed, to be approved, to be sent in, and then the next step was, we're gonna send that to the Division of Liquor Control, and now we need to further discuss, some things, above and beyond the original application. Some of them were already in there, but I'll just kind of give you highlights of what council needs to give us some type of direction. We'll take some notes, and then we'll put that in the ordinance form, and then we'll, take the original resolution and feather that back in, and it'll all be one ordinance that we will have to, get that to the Division of Liquor Control. So, one of the major items is the number and spacing of, and types of signage. So, we have this, pretty large area, and we need to put signs up for the event. I met with, Jesse, street department, haven't got to the chief, well, I did get to the chief, just in time. I'm gonna pass out some of the signage that other communities have used, and what they talked about, in the writing here, that, the permit holders in these communities usually, have to pay for 2 signs each. We have 5 permit holders in this, so that would get us up to 10, and as you see, we're gonna need 15 to 20 signs on that day of that event. They're gonna be portable, and we would, street department would put them up and then take them down. They would not be permanent structures. So when I pass this, I'll pass a copy of each. This is a similar DORA, and, I believe this one was Worthington, and the red dot indicates where they put their signs. So pass that out, and then I'll show you, where we're going with this. We have, it's a little bit different, that we have an L shape in ours, but we would use a similar pattern to those, that they use there. There is a picture of a, portable sign there, on the front of that. That is gonna run us about $100 a piece. We did find, or Jesse just found today, a more, cost-effective way. It's portable, and it looks portable, and it's not, not as classy as that. It is basically a cone, an orange cone with a, acrylic sign sticking in the top of that. And those are about $30 a piece, so, council would, kind of consider what we're gonna go with. We do think of, with that, the one the sign that they show there, we're gonna make the face big enough that we would like to include a picture or an image like they did here of our DORA, kind of like at the mall, you can find out where you are, so they can look at that and say, okay, well, I'm inbound, if you will.
I always think of the things that people can do to cause trouble. So we can avoid that, I think orange cones, if they're like the standard orange cones, they're gonna be easily moved or kicked over or whatever, so I do like the example in this picture a little bit better in that regard.
I think we need to see some options and have the opportunity to consider different options.
Okay. Yeah, this particular type of sign wouldn't be required, for the ordinance, but the number, they're really looking for that.
Yeah.
But we still have time, we can show you some options, I mean, that one depicts, municipal signs, and they could get that one for about $100, and he actually brought, I didn't bring it in, the orange cone one, but, this definitely looks more professional.
Do you have any idea what this sign would weigh?
I know it's heavy duty, I'm guessing it's, weighted at the bottom, probably 30 pounds.
Some of them can have sand in them still.
Yeah.
Couple fab shops in the community, possibly we could have the post and base fabricated locally and just put a sign on it.
Sure.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I believe, Oaks Swarming Day, the sign for the shopping.
Did you have a recommendation on how far apart you wanted things spaced?
I was just using this would be my recommendation, at all the corners. Of course, this isn't the exact, door, but, they kind of outline it, and, major thoroughfares are gonna have some cones there. I would imagine that, a special event, we might even close down some of the alleys, I'm not sure. That probably makes sense, we have closures on those and, one or two signs there. But we think we can, do it about 20 times, 15 to 20 times. And we did that by taking our Dora and just starting to, plot them just like we did here.
Lance, one of the things that was discussed early on, but I haven't seen in some of the recent things, was that besides having the special containers for serving for outdoor use, that we would also, it was suggested that there might be a plastic, or not plastic, some type of wristband, so the person with the cup would also know to have been checked by the, whoever served it, is being right. I think there's always going to be a concern that someone is going to buy a drink or two and walk outside and hand it to someone else who may be underage. And the idea of having that wristband, which means, okay, we checked your ID and we know you're legal, seems important to me. I don't know, I know that got talked about at the beginning, hasn't been talked about.
But I think the, permit holders, when it was originally presented, I don't remember them, not liking the idea.
I think they presented the idea.
Part of the policing, and I'll say this, it's on the permit holders. They're issued, want to call them addition to their permit. Once, we're approved, they will actually receive something from liquor control that actually adds to their permit. But in receiving that, they're also being advised, you have to police some of this too. It's not just Chief Gladys and his officers and auxiliary officers. It's also the permit holder. so that they're supposed to not allow people to leave, let's say with a glass, okay? The only people that should be exiting there are going to have the container that's designated for the door. So there is some responsibility on their part too.
I do have a question. If, somebody exits, with the plastic cup,
Mm-hmm.
and they do hand it off to somebody else, how do we determine which permit holder necessarily broke that rule, or does everyone along the street, all 5 permit holders, receive a punishment for that?
Well, I don't know that the punishment to the permit holders is on our part, that's on liquor control. They have permits, and if they violate those permits, they can have problems with the division, not with us. I'm not sure, other than our policing efforts, how we are going to, police that. That's up to the chief, that's part of the safety plan. But I don't know that we're going to fine and penalize the liquor permit holders, because we're not issuing the liquor permit. The state of Ohio is issuing those permits. So, could there possibly be, SIU agents there? Yes. Would that surprise me? Would I think they're gonna I think they'd be there for any or every event? Probably not. But I would imagine that they do periodically check doors that are in operation. Because really, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to issue violation notices, that's up to the division.
The way it generally works is if we see or detect a violation that's a permit type violation, we make a referral to the SIU and the Department of Liquor Control, and then they ding the license on the permit there. In the circumstance that you're talking about, where someone is lawfully exiting with a proper cup and has been properly ID'd, they then go outside out of the purview of the permit holder, and they're caught providing that alcohol to a minor, we then arrest them for furnishing alcohol to a minor. So there's like dual enforcement measures that are in play here. It depends on what exactly happens during the incident, on how we approach it.
So it'd be the same thing if someone had a cup that was properly cooled at the time they got it, and then went to the back of their car and pulled out a 6-pack and filled it with that.
That's correct. That would be a violation, and we would be involved from that standpoint. So there's a number of things that would be illegal in terms of things we already enforce. That isn't going to change, and obviously we're paying attention to those types of things, knowing that people being people are going to try and test us. But in terms of permit holders, Mark made the point exactly that that's pretty much between the Department of Liquor Control and the permit holder. We don't really go in and arrest permit holders for permit violations. That's kind of
The permit holder allows somebody to leave the establishment with the proper cup, proper credentials, whatever. When they walk outside that door, that's out now of the permit holders.
Depends how far out the door they are. Like in Bella's, for instance, their front porch is actually part of their permit premise.
Well, yeah.
So that's outside, and that's still their problem. And then we had an issue that a few years ago, we ended up working all that out. But if you now left there and you're 2 blocks down the street, it's hard to hold a permit holder responsible for something that then breaks the law outside of their control. Mm-hmm. That then falls to us to try and, police for that and enforce against that.
That's why in your example, if somebody goes out, pours their drink into another glass, happens to look the same, and gives it to a minor, the chief can enforce that. Basically, you're not allowed to furnish alcohol to a minor. And it's really not the permit holder at that point, once they're away from the premise.
And just to follow up on that too, and Mark makes a point about SIU, they do come to town. We do random compliance checks on all of our permit holders, everybody. I mean, from Circle K all the way to American Legion, anybody that has a permit, we do random, undercover, anonymous checks, frequently with those, SIU agents and on our own as well. And those things are going to continue, and they'll probably be enhanced very special.
So the container, saw a picture of the container?
Yes.
Then they talked about changing the colors, and I think they talked about, now that you brought up wristbands, you know, then that would be up to them what they do. But, you know, they would be, you know, would ask in here what type of container. I would be submitting this, on that, something like this, on that, the second, correspondence to, liquor control. And then the last thing, which I think we've all talked about, which we definitely need to put in the ordinance, which we can do, up until now, it's been a case-by-case special event, we can write it like that, but, you know, it's not spelled out like that in the, application yet, but, it would be spelled out in the ordinance, and that's what I would recommend doing, is what you guys have been talking about. The council will have full control over it. So the other 8, items that, you know, would be in that ordinance would be the public safety plan. We've already put that in the application, and the sanitation plan. That's, already in the application. So I would propose that, if, you know, from the notes, that, you know, we would put, you know, I can draw a map out just like this, show where we're gonna put the signs, and then, maybe at the next meeting, we can have, a couple samples of signs that we want to look at.
Yeah, even if they're just, you know, pictures of drawings, that would be fine, but I'm not, we need to have the actual sign.
Okay, yeah.
So do we want to require a wristband along with that container? Is that our opinion?
I'd be okay with that.
That's my opinion, I like the idea that was proposed, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, it gives, well, I'm not gonna, it should give the police department an idea that you're legal, but I know that's not necessarily the case, because when my son was in college, you can buy them wristbands.
Well, you can get those pre-printed that say, you know, Columbiana door district permit or something on it, you know, so that they're not just going and buying a case of whatever color from whatever company.
And that's the way I look at it, and, you know, not to be smart, but in God we trust, everybody else gets checked. I couldn't have much better.
Would a stamp be, an alternative to a wristband?
Stamps are easy to,
Well-
that's what we did at the fair, we would
Well-
just.
I'm saying more like, you know, Birdfish is part of, State Line Brewers Guild, and every brewery in that guild has a personalized stamp. So ours is a penguin, so it would be something that everybody, all the permit holders could have a personalized stamp. You know, it's an upfront cost, it's just an idea and option.
I mean, either way, the wristband, the stamp, they can work around it if they want to, but, yeah, I'm not opposed to a stamp.
I think it would have to be a large enough stamp so that it was very visible, the stamp they use on that, whatever you call that thing, that those are so small that they go unnoticed, but they don't really show up that well, I don't think.
So I think, you know, I like the idea, but they're, you can wash them off, it's easy to marker them and things like that, so I'd rather a wristband.
Anything else, Lance?
No,
So you have everything you need to move the next step?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, great, great. Okay, we have a notification from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control regarding liquor permit for the city of Columbiana for Birdfish Brewing at, 140 East Park Avenue, Columbiana, 408, adding additional owner.
So this is a standard practice, how Division of Liquor Control sends these out. If there's any additional owners, added to an LLC, they're required to send this notice out, and that notice is much like all the other ones that you've seen. It does not change the type of permit,
It's just simply saying that we're adding an owner to the, okay, right. Looking at the application, it has 4 options. We do not object to this permit. We request the Division of Liquor Control, document our objection and to issue this permit. But if we do require a hearing, et cetera, we object and request a hearing. We object and request a hearing, on the advisability of the final permit. So we have 4 options there. I would entertain a motion to pick one of those options and, vote on whether or not to do that.
What's that first option?
We do not object to this permit. Second one is we request the Division of Liquor Control to document our, objection to the issuance of this permit, but we do not request a hearing. In choosing this option, I understand that this is only for the, objection for the record and find that it will not adversely impact the issuance of the permit. Number 3 is we object and request a hearing on the advisability of issuing the permit. Please hold the, hearing in Columbus. We have, 4th one is we object and request a hearing on advisability of issuing the permit. Please hold the hearing in the county seat, of the premises. So we can choose any one of those 4 options and move forward with it.
I'll make the motion that we do not object to this permit.
Second.
Okay, so that's option number 1. Okay. Any further comments or questions? We have roll call, please.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
Okay, you all received a copy of the bill list for, February 5th, 2019. Are there any questions or comments, regarding the, bill list? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Due to the length of the ordinances and, the fact that everyone has received copies of them in advance, could I have a motion to read them by title only, please?
So moved.
Roll call, Ian.
Liston?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes. Ordinance number 1902-994, second reading. This is on old business. An ordinance authorizing the sale or recycling of personal property which is no longer needed for municipal purposes.
So moved.
Any comments or questions? Deanne?
Bob?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Moving on to new business, a motion to approve Fairfield Burlington Club to hold annual plastic custom and English car show on South Main Street on Sunday, July 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Seconded. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
The next two ordinances, we need to read by emergency. Could I have a motion to read, item B and C as emergencies, please?
So, second.
Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Becker?
Yes.
Sauer?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ordinance number 19-0995, emergency ordinance authorizing the city manager and director of finance to enter into agreement with the regional income tax agency for the administration of income tax laws of the city of Columbiana and for the collection of said taxes.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I think it's a good option moving forward, and moving now so that we're not getting stuck having to hire somebody in an interim or something like that.
I'd just like to say, with any new system, there's gonna be bugs to work at, you know, and just give it time, be patient with it. You know, no matter when you change somewhere, a new software, a new city, a new school, there's gonna be a transition, so just be patient.
And if it doesn't work out, you can always go back.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Sauer?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 19R533, emergency. An emergency final resolution authorizing the city manager of Columbiana, hereafter referred as the local public agency, LPA, to execute contract with IDOT for the resurfacing of State Route 714 and 164 in North Main Street within the city limits, PID 102292 in the city of Columbiana.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
McBain?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Sauer?
Yes.
Ordinance number 19-02996, first reading, an ordinance approving and adopting the motor vehicle policy for the city of Columbiana, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Lance, could you just briefly highlight what the,
Basically, an insurance policy, or an insurance company, after talking to them, they recommend that we, implement a vehicle policy, which we had not had one part of our, policy manual. It's just, it referenced, city equipment. And, we should, have a policy much like we did the, credit card policy, getting that, updated and implemented. And they, what we did is we reached out to, several communities, got one, and then, gave it to them, and they looked through it and checked all their boxes.
okay,
So,
great.
and Mark would work with us too.
Any other questions or comments? Have roll call, please.
Wilson?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Sauer?
Yes.
McBee?
Yes. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address council on any issues tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to council comments.
Just have a couple of questions. In the concerns of the DORA, Chief, how many officers do you think you're going to use? Because my guess is that they would be full-time officers and not auxiliaries. Does auxiliary have the arresting powers that our regular officers do?
Certain members of the auxiliary do have that arrest authority because they've been through the police academy. Generally speaking, anything that's gonna likely require an arrest is gonna require an officer to sworn, could be full or part-time.
How many officers would you anticipate working, say, a 4 to 9 segment?
Generally speaking, I'm gonna try to do this without revealing all the cards in the deck, but generally speaking, between certain hours of the day, we have overlap shifts because of the 10-hour shifts we have. So there are times we have as many as 5 out already. We would likely detail some of them for extra patrol in that area during the hours. If that doesn't work out, or if we see that there are issues that we need to address beyond that, then it would become something that we would have to staff. I don't anticipate, based on the research, that we're going to have that. I spoke to 3 different communities when we were talking about this, and I was pretty amazed to find that all the police chiefs in the places I talked to, which were all larger than ours, report very few, if any, problems with this type of an arrangement. So I'm not anticipating a big deal on it, but if it happens, then we'll have to back up and reconsider what our deployment strategy is.
Do you anticipate any overtime costs being affiliated with this type of a ongoing thing?
I'm hoping that there isn't. Again, it's really hard to say until we get into this and find out how it's going to look and what kind of problems, if any, we're going to have. If that becomes an issue, then obviously we have to revisit our deployment strategies and possibly some other things that may come from council.
I know you've worked diligently hard over the years to keep our overtime costs down, and that there was just a couple of bucks there, but I thought,
absolutely.
So
anything that we add that requires additional staffing has the potential to increase overtime costs. But again, with the way that our shifts are structured, many times during some of the hours that are going to be involved in a DORA type arrangement, we're going to have some overlap, generally speaking, anyway. And we can always make adjustments, and believe me, I'll make adjustments before we expend and burn our budget on a lot of overtime for that. Or I'll be coming back to you to ask if there's other ways that we can address that.
Yeah, and we certainly always have the option to decide that this isn't working and we aren't going to approve any further events.
Or like, four-wheel drive, for example, their event. Some of these other ones, they actually hired some, that got out.
Well, the public safety plan,
Yeah.
seems to me that we can put on the permit holder. You pay for security.
That's certainly an option that council would have. Again, I would probably recommend just seeing how this thing goes, and if we start to see this as a problem, I think we can deal with it fairly quickly and change this, since you guys really have a lot of control over how it looks and what the construction of it is, and as it goes forward. I think it's going to be a learning curve. I think we're going to have to see how it goes. Generally speaking, none of the events we have in town, from the wine tasting to the St. Jude's Festival, the things that we have already, we're not getting problems out of them, and we don't anticipate having you approve things that are going to create that kind of problem. I don't think you're going to approve the annual Hell's Angels reunion or something like that.
Isn't it, well, I think this is a true statement, is this a true statement that when you deploy your officers, the auxiliary working downtown, if there's a problem, they could call an officer in very quickly?
That's the way it's structured. The auxiliary are on the same radio frequency we are. We try to, when we're using auxiliary in an area, we try to have officers detailed to that area so they have that ability to rapidly access a person with arrest authority. Auxiliary do have the authority to detain someone, and they don't have the authority necessarily to use a great deal of force to do that. but there is the ability to detain and do a preliminary brief investigation while waiting for an officer to come. We don't anticipate we're gonna need to flood the area with officers. I think what we'll initially do is probably, flood it with uniforms, not unlike we do at street fair, because, a large police presence, beyond their presence, if you will. You may or may not know who's sworn and who's not sworn, and it's a deterrent. Then you see a lot of officers there, maybe you'll tend not to act up, and we don't really anticipate a lot of rowdy drunkenness and that type of thing. We don't see that in the research that we're doing. I don't anticipate it here. If it happens, then we're going to, react to that, and we're going to, make every effort to make sure that doesn't happen in our city.
Other council comments?
My son had an event, so I was late, I missed it, in regards to the, date chosen for the Dying Breed Diesel. Did we pick a date that was a Shaker Woods weekend?
He had a couple of dates and wasn't sure what dates he wanted to do it, and so we asked him to coordinate with the police chief and report back to me when he settles on a date. And I'm sure the chief will take a look at it, things like Shaker Woods, street fair and everything else that's going on that time.
He actually checked with me in the chamber office to see what date would work best. We talked about September 28th and October 5th, because at that time, there's nothing on the calendar for either of those days.
Okay, because it was one of the concerns I had from some of the businesses downtown. They lost a lot of foot traffic because their normal customers that those particular weekends could not park during that specific event, and they were a little concerned about losing business again. Not that they didn't want to see something come in, but they wanted it to be a weekend that wouldn't affect them so negatively. But it's definitely not the same clientele.
Yeah, he said that they also were planning to do it, I think, between 4 and 8 o'clock, a little bit later in the day, to try to reduce that problem with the local businesses.
Dick, I had one thing, it was more of a manager report, and I just simply forgot it. Rick had reported, a couple council meetings ago about, the progress committee that we have, and that we mentioned, Deb Brown, she's a nationwide consultant. She's actually gonna be coming here, very, very soon, and there's gonna be a public meeting held at the theater at 5 o'clock on the 25th. And we're going to show the tourism board video, and then we're gonna continue on with the public meeting, so everybody's invited to that. We're hoping to get a good turnout for her. And, she's gonna do some question and answer, but she's also gonna find out what she did in the town. She's gonna come in, on that Friday and stay and do some things throughout and talk to a lot of people. And the progress group is really working hard. We've got a jam-packed, schedule here, and it pretty much takes up from, Friday at 1 o'clock when she gets here, clear to Tuesday morning. We're gonna have her doing things, meeting, people in the community, hopefully, visiting the school, meeting with Columbiana First, going out to Land Post, meeting with, some of our leadership, people. Gonna look at the manufacturers meeting and, try to contact some of the area manufacturers. She'll be able to sit down and talk to them. Pat Tingle in the Women's Club has agreed to do a tea party for her, and they're gonna, she wants to dress up and have a nice tea party, and Pat's really excited about that. They're gonna invite a lot of other organizations to do that, so pretty exciting.
25th February.
Yes.
And what time?
5 o'clock on a Monday.
Okay, any other council comments?
I do, down here.
Oh, sorry.
I gave everybody a list of the award winners that are going to be honored at the Chamber of Commerce Awards Banquet on March 2nd. A new construction award will be the Dairy Queen, Business Expansion, PhD Manufacturing, Adaptive Reuse, Franklin's Meat Market, Entrepreneur Award, Brad and Becky Grant, Claims Unit Development, KDC Properties, The business of the year this year is Nick Church. The business person of the year is Lance Willard. Outstanding community service is Jim Clemens. Lifetime of service awards are going to Ken Alcorn and Earl Corey, and educator of the year will be Kathy Katie Brown. Good group of people to be recognizing this year on March 2nd, and that will be held at the Dutch Village Inn.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn?